Everything okay. I was working. After that, I'm going to street to garage
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to my car, and
Hmm.
I doing everything because my brakes was out.
Yeah, your brakes
Nearly,
were. Uh-huh.
nearly, nearly completely out.
Really? That's not very
Yeah,
safe.
I changed discs.
You changed your brake discs. Yeah, absolutely. We need to maintain our cars all the time, right?
Yeah, safety is the first treatment.
Safety is huge. Safety is very important. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Well, yeah, I was having some difficulty starting the Hangout. I think in the morning it causes problems. So I apologize for the wait, guys. I was trying to start the class, but it wasn't starting. So finally got it to work. But yeah, so besides that, how's everything going for you, Gregory? Besides the car, are you looking forward to your weekend?
Yes, it's beginning of my weekend. It's nice. The daughter guest to grandma. Wife going to sleep,
Uh,
and I have a little bit time for the class.
nice, nice. That's awesome. That's
It's
awesome.
when it's begin almost calm and relaxing.
Nice. Yeah, it's always good to do that during the weekend. I know we miss those times during the weekend, usually because, or those times are so precious, there's so little time to relax that we forget how important it is to relax. It's great. Wilson, how's it going with you?
Hello, Farhan. Everything is okay. Can you hear me well?
I can. There's a little bit of static in the back, but I can hear you fine. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's fine. How's everything going, Wilson?
Uh, Now, can you hear me well?
It's a lot better. Yeah, it's a lot better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I I'm here at home studying a lot.
Uh-huh. What are you studying?
Just that. I'm studying uh, Node.js and Express.js frameworks.
Computer stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting,
computer
interesting.
programming.
Yeah, programming. The thing with programming is, do you look to websites online? There are some great websites online that teach some of the same stuff. There's a website called. Um, Let me actually open this up right now. I have two websites on my favorites bar actually. One of them is called Code Academy, although it might be very basic for you. And then there's another one called Design Lab. Let me share these with you here. Code Academy and Design Lab. Code Academy, Design Lab, and there's also another one called Treehouse. Actually, all three of these are yeah. Treehouse is very teamtreehouse.com actually. So that one is teamtreehouse.com. They have lots of great lessons online for most of them. I think would be too basic for you. They're for maybe website development, those kinds of things. But it's still something that is nice to see. That's nice to have in the program. So or at least nice to have access
Well,
to
thank you,
online.
Farhan.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll check them out.
Sure, sure thing. Lynn, how's it going? Welcome to class. Oh, Lynn just left. Okay. Maybe her connection is a little problematic. All right, guys.
Maybe
So
she's shy.
no, actually, she's been in my class before, so it's good to see her. But yeah, so guys, welcome to class today. Right, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things today. So the grammar lesson that we're going to be discussing very at the beginning is going to be the possessive. Right now. I don't know, Wilson, if you've been taking the new Colingo classes, but we now have a new way of organizing the classes actually. So instead of having the numbers, we have different kinds of levels. So we have, for example, the high intermediate level, the intermediate level, the advanced level, different kinds of classes. This class is a high intermediate class. So the emphasis is actually more on the conversation. We're going to be spending a little bit of time on the grammar, but the idea is that we will spend more time on the article and on the discussion afterwards, right? So, hey, Lynn, you're back. How's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome, welcome. So today, guys, when we look at the possessive tense, or the possessive form in English, right, we are going to be investigating how we make possession in English, right? How we say something belongs to somebody else, or something belongs to something in English, right? Um, and I think you guys have all been in this class before, but um, we will think about this in the sense of technology today, because the second part of our article is we're going to be talking about a robot, a brand new robot that was created, um, and it's inspired by an insect actually. So we'll be hearing about that. So let's imagine for a second that you have your very own robot, right? Gregory's robot, Lynn's robot, Wilson's robot. What would you have your robot do? What would your robot's job be in the house? Or maybe outside the house, I don't know. Uh, Wilson, let's start with you if you don't mind.
Okay, if I had a robot in my home,
Your own robot,
I
yeah, yeah.
uh, I I would make him do some some task like cleaning the house or don't know cutting the flowers outside of the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there would be you would have the robot do tasks, maybe small tasks or boring tasks that you would have to do otherwise, right?
Right.
Right, awesome. So taking care of the garden, I think that's a good idea. What about Lynn? What would you do if you had your very own robot? What would its job be?
Well, if I have my own robot, there are a lot of things that I really want my robot can help me to do, such as doing my homework, um, cleaning my house, and taking care my garden.
That's awesome. But Lynn, isn't it bad if you have the robot do your homework because then you're not learning anything?
Yes, I know, I know.
But we still do it though, right? If I could have somebody else, if I could have a robot do some of the work that I have to do, like some of my computer projects, it's so boring. I would absolutely have them do that, right? Or take classes for me or whatever, right? Like I'm learning some stuff on the side. It would be so fun. But, these are just imaginations, I guess, or these are imaginary thoughts. Uh, what about you, Gregory? What would you do if you had your own robot? What would its job be in the house?
Like other guys, I wish he make all my homework and my wife's homework,
Hmm.
cooking and cleaning and washing and drying. It's not boring for me. Instead of doing this boring things, I was walking, traveling, uh, pay attention of my relations problem. I I have what to do.
Yeah, you have a lot you need to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you are
and
already very busy.
but we have one robot vacuum cleaner. We don't have in our house, but our friends have some little disc. She's going on the floor.
And it cleans
You
the
program
house.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
clean the floor.
Yeah,
and it's nice machine.
it is. I think it's called a Roomba, actually. I think it's called a Roomba.
There's
Rumba. Uh-huh.
some kind of vacuum cleaner.
It is, it is. It's a really interesting kind of robot. It got very popular here in the US a few years ago. Um, uh, and Wilson prefers to concentrate on the most important things of the day instead of focusing on all the boring tasks, right, Wilson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and same thing. I think you guys all agree with that, right? If I had a robot, I would have the robot cook for me, right? Because I don't know how to cook anything. So if they know, like for example, I can only make like three things. I can make chicken and rice and pasta and like sandwiches. That's it, right? So I could have my robot maybe do all the cooking in the house and
why
just,
you don't go to restaurant?
oh, well, it gets expensive sometimes to always eat
But
outside.
I hear in United States it's not so expensive.
Yeah, it's
There
not
is
bad.
places where it's not expensive at all. I've heard
Uh-huh.
that. Maybe it's not true.
Uh-huh. Well, the thing is, we do have good restaurants, and there are actually restaurants that are that are good, that are well priced. You know, we don't have to spend a lot of money, but I think cooking is a skill also, right? So obviously, if I had my robot cook, then I would not get any skills. I would just be lazy. But eating out depends really on the location, Gregory. You know, some of the good restaurants if you want healthy food, you have to find they're a little bit more expensive. You know, the fast food, of course, is extremely cheap. Here in California, the Mexican food is extremely cheap. You can go anywhere and get Mexican food. Just in my immediate neighborhood, there are seven Mexican restaurants. Like I can walk to them,
But it's
right?
so spicy. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't eat it, but I'm here. It's very spicy.
it's very spicy, but I'm from India, so I love spice. There's no problem for me. But you know, it's that's why it's great. But yeah, if you don't want Mexican food, if you don't want Vietnamese food, then you have to go a little bit far away. My part of the city, there are a lot of Vietnamese restaurants, a lot of Mexican restaurants, some Italian restaurants, but that's it. If I want
Chinese.
Chinese is also here, yeah. Chinese restaurants are everywhere. You know, when I was driving through the desert, I saw a Chinese restaurant. Okay, there were no human beings for maybe 60 miles, right? There's a small town, a small village. There's a Chinese restaurant there in northern
In Israel,
Nevada.
a lot of Thailand restaurant.
Yeah, there's Chinese restaurant. There's also Thai. Yeah, there's a lot of Thai restaurants here, but not in my neighborhood actually. A little bit far away. Here we have a lot of Vietnamese people and we have a lot of Mexicans. So we have a lot of Mexican restaurants, a lot of Vietnamese restaurants, um, some Chinese restaurants, but definitely not as many. So yeah, it depends. I saw one Indian restaurant. It looked good, but I didn't go inside because it was very late. They were closing at 9 o'clock, and I saw them at 8:30, so I didn't want to go. Japanese food is also really good in California, sushi especially. So there are good choices. Sushi is expensive, however. So um, anyway, guys, yeah, go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry. Yeah.
What is the difference between neighbor, and neighborhood
What is the difference between neighborhood?
and neighbor?
Uh, between a neighborhood? Is that what you're asking, Lynn?
Neighbor and neighborhood.
Ah, yes. Perfect, perfect. A neighbor is a person, exactly. So, like Wilson is saying, a neighbor is a person, right? So, for example, Gregory is my neighbor. He lives next door, right? However, if I say neighborhood, then that's it's like a community. It's an area of the city, right? So, in my neighborhood, we have six houses and six families. Six families live in six houses, right? In my neighborhood, we have a lot of children. So this is an area of the city, right? My area, my immediate area, the streets near me, the homes near me. That's a neighborhood, right? If you want to say, you can make neighbor plural, right? I have many neighbors. Like maybe I have some Indian neighbors, I have some Chinese neighbors, right? You can say different things like that if you want to talk about the people. But the neighborhood is the place, the kind of the location. Make sense, Lynn?
Yes, it makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, guys. So when we were using possession to learn about these, to talk about these robots, right? How do we use possession in English? Really, the most simple way is we have the apostrophe S, right? We have a noun and we have apostrophe S. So Jason's car, right? Samantha's computer, right? Michelle's laptop, right? Whatever the case might be. Apostrophe S is really the most standard way to do possession in English, right? However, there are a few examples or a few exceptions to the rule, right? If it's a word that ends in S, okay. So if it's a singular noun that ends in S, maybe somebody's name is Chris, right? So when I say Chris's laptop, right, I have to write Chris's laptop. So I have to write the apostrophe S, even though the name ends in S, right? So for anything singular, any singular noun, Chris, Michelle, Gregory, Wilson, Jason, Gregory, whatever the case might be, right? Apostrophe S. Doesn't matter if the name ends with S. Chris's, I don't know, Jesse's, or no, Jesse ends in an
It's
S.
very hard to say when the name end to S and additional S just I don't hear it.
Yeah, so if I say Chris's, right, you see here that second S? Chris's, right? If I had no second S, it would just be Chris laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris laptop, but Chris's laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have that additional apostrophe S makes us is sound, Chris's laptop, right? So that's when we have a singular noun, doesn't matter. We'll always add an apostrophe S. When we have a plural noun, okay, so if I say the girls' room, right? Maybe I have two daughters, right? That's the girls' room, right? Then the way we write it is because it's plural, we just put the apostrophe. We don't put an apostrophe S. Okay? So how would you pronounce this one, Gregory? This last example.
Girls' room.
Girls' room, exactly. Exactly right. So there's a difference. Chris's laptop, girls' room, right? Because it doesn't have that second S. So we have to be careful about that, right? Any questions, guys, on this part so far?
No.
Makes sense, right? So the other thing I wanted to, yeah, go ahead, Wilson, absolutely.
I'm okay.
Oh, you're okay as well?
So,
Oh, no problems. So when we use some of these possessions, right, I want to just focus on two other things, right? That's the main construction. There are two other ways that we can show possession in English, and those are with adjectives and pronouns, right? So possessive adjectives, okay? Possessive adjectives always come before the noun. Always come before the noun, okay? And the possessive adjectives are, for example, my, your, his, her, its, and then we have our, your plural, and their. These are the possessive adjectives, right? My car, your computer, his laptop, her laptop, its laptop, right? Maybe it's a robot, right? This is the robot's laptop, right? Our house, your bed, right? You're talking to two people, and their neighborhood, right? So these always come before the noun, right? My car. Car is the noun, my comes before. So these are the possessive adjectives. When we have possessive pronouns, guys, the words are slightly different, and the possessive pronouns always come after the noun. Always come after the noun, right? So the possessive pronouns are, for example, mine, yours, his, hers, right? We don't have one for it, right? So his, hers, and then we say ours, yours, plural, right? And we have theirs, right? So these are the examples of the possessive pronouns, right? So I say, for example, that computer is mine, right? Mine is coming after the computer. Computer is the noun, and mine is coming after, right? That robot is yours, right? This house is ours. This car is theirs, right? help, guys? Do you guys have any questions about these two types, the adjectives and the pronouns?
Okay.
Makes
There
sense,
is
right?
another form. He is friend of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a friend of mine, right? So in that example, you have a possessive pronoun, right?
It's one of this two.
Yeah, it's going to
Okay.
be a possessive pronoun, right? Because
Ah,
he is a friend of mine. Mine is one of those possessive pronouns,
okay.
right? Yeah, fantastic. That's a great example. Lynn and Wilson, any questions, guys, about the grammar so far?
No.
It's okay.
It's okay. It makes sense. Hey, Orabi, welcome, man. How's it going?
Thank you. Sorry for being late.
Oh, no worries. You're actually just in time to start the article. So we are going to take a look at the article, guys. We're going to learn about this robot, right? And the robot is actually inspired by an insect, right? So an insect is, a fly, a mosquito, right? A little bug is called an insect. So this robot has been inspired by an insect, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to screen share, but also, just like any of these articles that we're looking at, right, I want to stop after every 2 paragraphs. Anytime you guys have any questions with the words, any vocabulary, stop me, okay? Just stop me from what I'm doing, ask me, hey, what does this word mean, right? Because I want us to understand what all of the words mean, okay? So let's take a look at this article, guys, and it's from BBC. So it says, flying insect-like robot, Gimbal, can crash and recover, right? So it's an insect-like robot, right? And its name is Gimbal. I don't know why they named it that, but it's a gimbal. It's called Gimbal. It can crash and recover, right? So if it hits something, it can get up again. It doesn't matter, right? This is what the thing looks like, right? It looks kind of like a robot that is surrounded by these two circular rings, right? Two rings. So we'll hear what they're talking about here. An insect-like flying rescue robot that can bounce off trees and buildings has been revealed by its creators. Gimbal has been developed to be used in situations that are hazardous to humans. Guys, what does hazardous mean?
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, gimbal has been developed to be used in situations that are hazardous or dangerous to humans, right? The robot is designed to be able to deal with crashes, okay, and to right itself after a collision. What does the right itself mean, guys? What happens? What does the verb right mean here? This is a verb in this case. How can you right yourself?
Rebuild.
Yeah, you can rebuild yourself. You can fix yourself, right? If you crash, you can recover, right? Just like we saw here, gimbal can crash and recover, right? So if it hits something, it can recover. Gimbal has a protective spherical roll cage, right? Spherical, guys, is a circle, or is a three-dimensional circle, like a ball is a sphere, right? So gimbal has a protective spherical roll cage. This is a roll cage, right? It protects it and is mounted on pivots to stay upright. Okay. To mount something is to go on top of it, right? So it is supported by these pivots. Pivots are, man, I don't know how to say it in any other language, but pivots are maybe these little um, like support pillars, little pillars that support them, maybe a piece of plastic that holds gimbal in the middle of this roll cage, right? So it doesn't move around. So there's some pivots maybe at the bottom that keep it in place, right? The flying robot, which bounces off walls, moves in a similar way to a mosquito, okay? Gimbal was in part inspired by the way insects fly, co-creator Adrian Briard told the BBC. Usually, robots need to move around obstacles, so we thought it would be interesting to allow it to sustain collisions. Guys, what does sustain mean, guys?
Support.
To be able to, yeah.
Yeah, to support, but really to be able to survive, right? To be able to withstand something, right? If I can sustain a collision, that means that if my car crashes, I would still be alive, right? Like I have,
Robust.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Robust?
Yeah, to be robust, right? To be robust, exactly. To have the ability to say, okay, I hit something, but it's okay. I'm still alive, right? So it can sustain these collisions. A collision is when you have two things hit each other, right? The drone, described as crash happy, it's actually called crash happy, right? Because it can crash so many times, was designed and built by a team in Switzerland at the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, the Polytechnical Federal School of Lausanne, right? The robot was developed for use in disaster situations, such as entering a building on fire or after a radiation leak, right? So these are two ideas that maybe they are going to use gimbal for. Normally, flying
Uh,
robot. Yeah, go ahead, Wilson. Yeah, absolutely.
what's the difference of using enter and get, or maybe attend?
Between enter and get. Okay, so good question. If you enter something, you are inside something, right? Like if you enter your house, you're now inside your house, right? Um,
Yeah.
get is actually, you can say get inside or you can say enter. Both of those are okay, right? So you can say I got inside my house, right? Or you can, the opposite is I got out of my house. My house was on fire, so I got out of my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And entering is to say you got inside something. So those are I guess the two ways that we can use those words or those verbs, right?
Great.
Yeah, awesome. That great question. So normally, guys, right, these flying robots are taken out of action by a major collision, right? What does it mean if something is taken out of action? This is a phrasal verb, right? What does that mean, guys?
Maybe out of service.
Yeah, exactly, Arabi, right? It's taken out of service, right? It's something that cannot recover, right? Flying robots, if they have a major collision, if they have a big crash, they're taken out of action. They can't recover, right? But the designers but these designers, the people who designed gimbal, did not think the problem could be solved by adding more sensors, right? They didn't think we should just add more sensors, and they wanted a different strategy. To keep gimbal lightweight, the research team decided to allow the robot to ricochet off obstacles instead, right? Do you guys know what ricochet means? Ricochet is actually a very interesting word.
No.
Ricochet means, for example, if you throw something at the wall, right? There are these little balls that you can buy from the sports stores, right? If you throw these balls at the wall, they come flying right back at you. We call them bouncy balls in English, right? So something that can ricochet can bounce off of a surface, right? And it doesn't stick to any surface. It doesn't crash to any surface. If it's moving, it can just bounce around from one wall to the other wall, from the inside of a building, all the way up and down, up and down, up and down, just ricochet off of different surfaces, bouncing back and forth between different surfaces,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So in this example, we're saying that that's what they did, right? It's a small robot, and because it looks like a ball, it can just bounce off of anything. It can hit a tree, it'll bounce off. It can hit a building, it can bounce off, right? It doesn't need to stick to any surface, right? So how does it stay upright, right? I'm going to just look at this a little bit more. So the robot has a rotating, flexible frame, right, that lets it bounce off anything that it hits in a chaotic environment, right? Let's say that a building has been destroyed. You send gimbal inside, right? Gimbal is not going to be stuck to part of the building, or maybe there's fire, maybe there's broken glass, all that stuff. It's not going to have to, it's not going to be sticking to anything. It's going to be bouncing around the inside of the building until it needs to go where it needs to be, right? So it has a very flexible frame, right? It looks very flexible. It's open, right? It has a very flexible frame. What does chaotic mean, guys? It can bounce off anything that it hits in a chaotic environment.
It's a place
Oh, I'm sorry.
that is very disorganized.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
it's hard to stay in there.
Yeah, right. Chaotic comes from chaos. The word chaos in English is a noun for a crazy situation, right? And chaotic is the adjective when you have a crazy environment, a crazy situation, right? So how does gimbal stay upright? How does it know which way is up and which way is down, right? It has a gyroscopic system that includes an accelerometer, right? So these are a little bit advanced words, guys. A gyroscope is something that can rotate, right? It's an engineering thing, right? A gyroscope is something that rotates, and it has a mechanism inside that allows it to know which way is up and which way is down. I think it uses gravity, right? And it also includes an accelerometer, right? Accelerometer is simply something that tells you how fast something is going, the acceleration, the change in velocity over time, right? For all of you physics people, dv over dt, right, is accelerometer, or is acceleration. So it knows how fast it's going, right? And this is the same type of sensor that we use in smartphones. So iPhones and all that kind of stuff. How does the iPhone know which way is up, which way is down when you hold it in your hand, right? It uses an accelerometer with a gyroscopic system inside. It's the same technology that they're using for the gimbal. The battery-driven robot, so it has battery inside, right? It doesn't need electricity. The battery-driven robot has two propellers, okay? And it is steered by fins. It has small fins that allow it to turn right or left, right? Fins, guys, are the things we see on fish, for example, right? Fish have these things on the side of their bodies that are these small fins, right? And it has a motion sensor, it has a camera, it has an altimeter, a compass, and a microcontroller processor. An altimeter, guys, is something that we see in planes. It tells you how high you are, your altitude. So an accelerometer tells you your acceleration. Altimeter tells you how high you are, how many feet, how many meters high you are, and has a compass, north, south, whatever, and a small processor. And this robot can lift weights of up to 30 grams. So it can carry gas or radioactivity sensors, right? It's a very small thing, so it can only carry something that's 30 grams. The robot can be remotely controlled. You can control it with the remote, right? But Mr. Bryod aims to eventually incorporate artificial intelligence capabilities into gimbal to allow it to accomplish complex tasks by itself, right? Do you guys get this paragraph? It can be remotely controlled, but the creator wants to give it artificial intelligence. Do you guys know what this is, artificial intelligence?
Yes.
What is that, Wilson, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, the robot could make decisions by its own way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It would have its own process of digesting information and making decisions from that information, right? It could work by itself, right? It would have some intelligence in its own computer that would help it do its job, right? So the team that built a gimbal at the Laboratory of Intelligent Systems included this guy, Briat, as well as engineer Mariusz Kornatowski, right? It's a very European invention. There's no mention of America in this article, right? Which is unusual for me because I usually have something related to the United States, right? But I think it's a very cool idea, right? We have this robot, right, that can be used especially in disaster situations. What do you guys think about this? Is it a good invention? Let's start with Gregory. Gregory, what do you think?
Yes, I think it's good invention. It make rescue people. It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll not understand how it's working. It's just fly.
What it does is it actually bounces off of surfaces, right? So it does fly, right? But for example, if it needs to roll, because it has two propellers, the propellers are those things that move on planes. Those blades like fans that move on planes, right? So they're saying that it has two propellers, but it can also, if it needs to go on the ground, right? It can roll on the ground because it has circle, that spherical framework, right? It has that ball around it, right? So it can bounce and it can go from, you know how a ball bounces, like it hits a surface, it bounces up and down, up and down, up and down. It can bounce off of the wall, it can bounce off of any flat surface, right? So in case it hits something, it's not going to break, right? So it's very resistant to any kind of crash, right? It can recover very easily. Hit something, it bounces off. It doesn't stay stuck. Usually if you throw a robot, if I drop my computer on the ground, it's going to crash, right? This thing can bounce back and forth. It can move like that, back and forth within an environment, right? I think maybe the video would be a nice example. They didn't show any pictures of this uh, robot. Did they just have that video and the guy holding it? So, but yeah, it seems to have an interesting way of moving around. I think that's the idea. But so, how do you think, Gregory, it could be used? Maybe it has a camera, right? What if a building crashes, for example? What could they use it for? It's too light to pick up a person, right? It can't grab a person and rescue a
Yes,
person.
I think it's just model. It's not real dimension.
Uh-huh. But
I think it must be very big, biggest than we see here in the picture.
uh-huh. Yeah, because especially if you have to rescue somebody, right? Well, maybe the idea is different, Gregory. Maybe the idea is the robot doesn't have to actually pick up the person, but it has a camera, so maybe it can show rescue workers outside the crash or outside the fire if there's anybody still inside, right?
Okay,
Maybe.
maybe sometimes it's important
Yeah, exactly, right?
to find in a very hard place where people not able to come in.
Exactly. Exactly right. If it's a disaster situation, they don't want to send people inside to grab people in case everybody inside is dead, right? Who knows? They can send a robot to do that kind of work. Absolutely. Um, Orabi, what do you think about this flying robot that can rescue people, or that can do all these
Uh,
things? Yeah.
yes, it's a great idea, new idea, yes. But
Uh-huh.
I don't like its shape. It's maybe the primary shape, maybe in the time can make advanced shape
Yeah.
more.
Right.
But yeah, but it is very helpful to help people, maybe from fires, for maybe in fire in forest, send it to maybe gain information to take pictures what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
What
yes.
What are some other disaster situations, Orabi, that you can think? They mentioned a fire. They mentioned a maybe if a building is maybe if a building collapses, right? People are stuck inside. What about like what other situations? They mentioned natural disasters. I'm trying to think of what kind of natural
Yeah.
disasters. What do you think?
Maybe in wars, if there is a battle and some soldiers stuck in some place cannot reach, others cannot reach them. Since this sphere with some things inside it, like maybe food, something, maybe
Hmm.
gun, something like that. Very
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, that's a great idea, right? I think.
Uh,
Go ahead, Robbie. Yeah, absolutely.
and, and also, if it is more smaller, maybe can use it for spying.
Exactly. I was just about to say that,
Yes.
the United States uses these robots called drones. I'm sure you guys have heard of these drones, right? These things fly all over the world and they kill people, they have missiles on them, they can destroy, half a city block or half a city street. Just these things that fly, robots, nobody inside them, right? Then they do spying too. Some of these drones are killing drones. Some of them are just looking at, spying at people, drones. So anything like this, the military will be very interested in, I think. But this is European, so America will probably not buy it, but maybe the European militaries will use it, right? Uh, Wilson, what's your reaction to this? And I also noticed you shared a link with us.
Yeah, it's this this invention remembers me the parrot are drawn.
Hmm.
It's it is kind of the same, but this invention is much better because it can work very well with obstacles. In fact, it can hit very anything and then can recover or do more things.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
can
nice.
ricochet, it can bounce back and forth, right? Ricochet. So if there are two surfaces, right, it hits the wall, it just bounces back, right? It doesn't get stuck, it doesn't crash to the wall. So yeah,
Right.
that's one of the biggest things that they're saying is really cool about this robot, right? But what's another situation you think that this would be a good robot to have, Wilson?
Well, according to the characteristics of this invention, I can think that it is very well uh, could be very well used in places where we cannot enter, uh, i- but this thing could enter to those places where there is. I don't know. For example, if you go to the caves in some touristic places and then you are stuck in there, and with this thing you can travel. You can enter to those caves. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any place that people could be stuck, right? Like in a cave or in a building that fell down, right? Um, if people are stuck and you don't want to send a human being to save them initially because you don't know what's going to happen, you can send a robot to figure out, okay, this is what's going on, right? There are that
Yeah.
many.
Like there was an issue I remember with a mine with
Hmm.
some people were trapped in Chile.
Yeah, yeah. It was a major incident, right? I think there were 40 miners or some large number of people were stuck inside.
Yeah, that situation, I think this invention will be very good thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. They could figure out who's in there. And a few months ago, actually, there was a tragedy in Bangladesh, my parents' country. A building collapsed actually, and there were over 3,000 people inside the building, right?
Whoa.
Some of them left, some of them were able to leave the building, but I think around 1,500 people died, right? Because I
Sad.
mean, a country like Bangladesh, there's no rules, right? That when they build a building, they don't have any regulation. They don't look to see is this good architecture? Is this the good engineering foundation of the building, right? They just build it however, and the corruption is unbelievably high. So if there's an engineer that comes to your building and says this building is not safe, you just pay him some money and he'll stop talking. He's not going to make a problem for you. So just the day before this building crashed, an engineer had come to the building owner. The building owner is a politician, right? So the politicians are already corrupt, right? This guy he came to the politician and he said, "This building has cracks in the walls already. You must evacuate. You cannot keep anybody in this building." Right? But the owner didn't care. The owner said, "This is I'm not going to listen to you. Who are you? Just some engineer." Right? I mean, just some engineer. You know, the guy's an idiot. Why did he say something like that? Right? Next day, the building
Yeah.
crashes. Man, 1,500 people die. 1,500 people die. You guys can read about this tragedy if you Google, for example, uh, if you Google this, the building was called Savar building collapse in Bangladesh, right? Tragedy. But the thing is, you don't see these technologies, right? Can poor countries afford these technologies, guys? Like you look at Bangladesh, every year we have a tragedy like this. India, tragedies, right? Like this. Maybe the cost of these is going to be too high. What do you guys think? You know, Gregory, can poor countries make use of these technologies, or is this not possible for poor countries? Do you think?
I think if Chinese engineer accepts this idea, it must be cheaper.
Yeah, right. As right now, I think it's very
But it's
expensive.
not working. Cheaper and not working.
Yeah, right. You buy a Chinese product, it's not going to work, but it's going to be cheap, right? Oh man, it's true, right? You need the European or the American or the German engineering, I think, or even Japanese engineering. A lot of great Israeli engineering is amazing too. You guys have some great robots in Israel.
Sure, the poor country cannot adopt this idea because they don't have no money, no technology enough for build and or buy this product. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
but
absolutely.
say make uh, ask help for other countries. In this situation, like earthquake, quake, all countries come to help. Maybe say break with them this robot.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And in the United States, we have the same thing. We have the most common robot that we have is actually these bomb diffusing robots, right? Most large cities like New York City, Los Angeles, right? They're, they have different kinds of departments in within their police departments, and one department is usually the robot department. So if there is a threat that maybe there is a car that has a bomb, or maybe somebody has some suspicious bag that could
Yes,
have a bomb inside.
we have two in Israel. We have in we find something, somebody find suspicious thing. The police call the robot, and this robot explode.
Yeah,
This thing.
exactly. The robot goes to the bag or the car or whatever, and
Yeah.
then they see the situation. So same thing, right? You don't have to send a person there. You can send a robot there. So that's another application. But we already have robots like that. So Gimbal probably wouldn't do that. Um, you know. Uh, Or Robbie, what do you think? Do you think the cost of these robots will prevent them from going to other countries, or how can we make this more accessible to everybody who might need it?
For maybe developing countries, I think it's difficult to have this technology.
Hmm.
As you said that a politician know about a disaster is coming maybe tomorrow. He don't care, so he will not care after a disaster to risk people's life.
That's sad, right? Sometimes, I mean, I think countries help, right? Right now in the Philippines, for example, many countries are sending a lot of aid and money and food and things like that, right? But it's sometimes it's too late. It's too little, too late, right? We say that phrase in English a lot. It's too little and it's too late, right? So the people have already died. A lot of the people have already died from the disaster. Um, but you
Yeah.
know, I don't know, guys. Maybe for something like a typhoon, like we saw in the Philippines, right? All of these people, they don't have a home, right? I don't know if this robot could help maybe in the robot would help in rescue, definitely, I think, if there was a building that was destroyed or something like that. But Philippines is, I mean, poor country, kind of like just like Bangladesh, India are poor countries. I don't know if they would be able to afford something like this, unfortunately. Um, Wilson, what do you think about
I
the?
think
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
Orabi, go
add.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Orabi.
Sorry, I want to add
Yeah, it's
that
fine.
this kind of report, especially for maybe discovery missions on other planets, there are no life on it. I think this is why they make it.
Hmm. Discovering people. Did you say, Orabi? I didn't catch that part.
No, no, planets like Mars,
Oh yeah,
other
absolutely.
other
Discovering other
planets.
planets. Yeah, discovering other planets, right? So that they put in the spacecraft and the spaceship launches off, and then they send the satellite into into orbit. India just sent their first Mars satellite, actually. So it's a special moment for India because it's like the third or fourth country to do something like that. So yeah, we have a lot of these
India is,
exploration robots.
yeah, and India is going like a rocket,
It is, right? It is.
developing. Yeah.
They sent this robot to the moon, but it didn't land correctly or something happened. So I was very surprised that they're focusing on Mars because, I mean, it's a lot more far away. It's a lot more difficult to send a robot to Mars. But I don't know. They have ambition, I guess. Um, Wilson, what about you, man? What do you think about the idea of cost, and is it something that will prevent these poor countries? What's your idea about accessibility? Yeah, sure, Europe is making this gimbal. It's just a prototype, right? Just an example. But what about these other places in the world that might need them?
I think that the governments are the issue here. They spend a lot of money and many things that even they don't. It's not necessary for the nation. You know, I've heard about that many times. And and if they were they had an agreement um, for the sake of the nation, I think that they could invest on this technology. But you know how they are. They prefer to invest in things that they will the investment will return to them, not to the nation.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, right? To give you an example of what happened in Bangladesh, right? After this building collapsed, the politician, the guy who just the day before, the guy who said the building is okay, no problems, right? He was actually about to run away to India. Then the military found him at the border and brought him back, right? And now, I mean, he became the most hated man in Bangladesh after this issue, right? People were saying just kill him, just find him and kill him. We don't want the police to get involved because the police and the government, they're so corrupt that he will probably, because he's a politician, he will probably just go free in behind the scenes, right? For maybe a few days, people are going to be very angry, kill him, whatever. And then when things calm down, they'll just release him slowly. Secretly, they'll release him back into society, right? And I think that's exactly what happened. You know, we have no idea where this guy is now, right? When the country was going crazy, they brought him back and they said, you know, we're gonna give him a trial, we're gonna punish this guy, right? The people on the street, the families of the 1,500 people that were killed, just wanted him dead. You know, they said, release him to us, and we'll kill him, right? I mean, people were angry, beyond angry, right? It was
Yeah.
a big tragedy. We have no idea where this guy is. I swear to God, I have no idea where he is now. I mean, the government, I think, just said, okay, let the people calm down, and we'll just let you go, because he's a politician. He's a politician for the current government, with the current government. So he's not the opposition, right? So, I mean, this is the problem here. Governments do not, in these countries like Bangladesh, governments do not care about their people at all, at all. It's just to show, you know, to show the people, okay, we caught him. Yeah, he was trying to escape to India. We caught him, right? We saved the day. He didn't run away, right? Garbage. I mean, who knows where he is now? I have no idea where he is. Nobody knows where he is, you know? And
Yeah.
he's responsible for 1,500 deaths, you know? At least 1,500. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So terrible, terrible thing, guys. But you know, when we see the situation, it's ridiculous what happens in some of these countries. So last but not least, guys, I know we're technically over time, but I wanted to ask you guys, did you guys have any questions about the grammar that we looked at? So possessive, I think it's possessive adjectives, possessive pronouns, right? Adjectives come before the noun, pronouns always come after the noun, right? And then we have the rule with the apostrophe S is what we use normally, right? But for the case of the plural nouns, we just put the apostrophe. And there's a slight change in pronunciation. So if I say Chris's laptop, the girl's room, right? Chris's versus the girl's, right? So a little bit of an issue there with the pronunciation. But any questions, guys, about the situation, about what we this article, about what we studied?
No, thank
Thank
you.
you
It's
very much.
okay.
That
I
was
understood.
fun.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. I have another class in 1 hour. If you guys are welcome to join. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I hope you guys had fun. Have a great rest of the day. Then I'll see you guys soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Yep,
Bye for
absolutely,
now.
Wilson. Take care. Sure thing. Bye-bye.
Everything okay. I was working. After that, I'm going to treat to garage
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
to my car, and
Hmm.
I doing everything because my brakes was out.
Yeah, your brakes
Nearly,
were. Uh-huh.
nearly, nearly completely out.
Really? That's not
Yeah,
very safe.
I changed discs.
You changed your brake discs. Yeah, absolutely. We need to maintain our cars all the time, right?
Yeah, safety is the first treatment.
Safety is huge. Safety is very important. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Well, yeah, I was having some difficulty starting the Hangout. I think in the morning it causes problems. So I apologize for the wait, guys. I was trying to start the class, but it wasn't starting. So finally,
Everything is okay. Can you hear me well?
I can. There's a little bit of static in the back, but I can hear you fine. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's fine. How's everything going, Wilson?
Uh, Now, can you hear me well?
It's a lot better. Yeah, it's a lot better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I I'm here at home studying a lot.
Uh-huh. What are you studying?
Just that. I'm studying uh, Node.js and Express.js frameworks.
Computer stuff.
Yeah, the
Interesting,
compute
interesting.
programming.
Yeah, programming. The thing with programming is, do you look to websites online? There are some great websites online that teach some of the same stuff. There's a thing. Lynn, how's it going? Welcome to class. Oh, Lynn just left. Okay. Maybe her connection. Maybe her connection is a little problematic. All right, guys.
Maybe
So
she's shy.
no, actually, she's been in my class before, so it's good to see her. But yeah, so guys, welcome to class today, right? We're going to be talking about a couple of different things today. So the grammar lesson that we're going to be discussing very at the beginning is going to be the possessive, right? Now, I don't know, Wilson, if you've been taking the new Colingo classes, but we now have a new way of organizing the classes, actually. So instead of having the numbers, we have different kinds of levels. So we have, for example, the high intermediate level, the intermediate level, the advanced level, different kinds of classes. This class is a high intermediate class. So the emphasis is actually more on the conversation. We're going to be spending a little bit of time on the grammar, but the idea is that there's a website called um, let me actually open this up right now. I have two websites on my favorites bar actually. One of them is called Code Academy, although it might be very basic for you. And then there's another one called Design Lab. Uh, Let me share these with you here. Code Academy and Design Lab. Code Academy, Design Lab, and there's also another one called Treehouse actually. All three of these are yeah. Treehouse is very teamtreehouse.com actually. So that one is teamtreehouse.com. They have lots of great lessons online for most of them. I think would be too basic for you. They're for maybe website development, those kinds of things. But it's still something that is nice to see. That's nice to have in the program. So or at least nice to have access
Well,
to
thank you,
online.
Farhan.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll check them out.
Sure, get it to work. But yeah, so besides that, how's everything going for you, Gregory? Besides the car, are you looking forward to your weekend?
Yes, it's beginner of my weekend. It's nice. The daughter guest to grandma. Wife going to sleep,
Uh,
and I have a little time, a little bit time for the class.
Nice, nice. That's awesome.
Because
That's awesome.
you know, when it's begin almost calm and relaxing.
Nice. Yeah, it's always good to do that during the weekend. I know we miss those times during the weekend, usually because, or those times are so precious. You know, there's so little time to relax that we forget how important it is to relax. Um, it's great. Wilson, how's it going with you?
Hello, Farhan.